listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Yes, sirree. We are back, everybody. It is the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show once again. I'm your host, Cain Stevens, and we're back here. Here's another great episode, one of my favorites. It's part of the Curse of Arnold Heights series. This one in particular, we're going to be talking to a mother and her daughter. They wanted their voices to be changed so that nobody could, kind of recognize them. So we ever so slightly changed their voices, but the message and the story is there. And this is one of the more terrifying accounts of, a lot of the paranormal stuff that's being reported out in the Arnold Heights Airpark area in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so, without further ado, let's just let you guys decide what you think about it and enjoy this best of show. We've got a brand new action-packed season coming up very soon. So just hold on for that and stick around, everybody, and away we go.
All right, everybody, we're back with the Cain Stevens Paranormal Super Show. Once again, I'm your host, Cain Stevens. I've got a couple guests here. They've decided to, we've been talking back and forth a little bit, and they've decided to come forward and just share their experiences with us on what happened to them. I'm going to not use their names, and if their voices and mine are a little bit goofy, or maybe we're not going to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks or anything like that, but we are going to change our voice a little bit so that I can conceal the identities of those involved. And for those of you out there who are listening, if you too want to come forward, I can do the same for you. But with that being said, hello, ladies. How are you?
Hi.
So we're just here to talk about your experiences. Let's try not to use street names. Well, street names are fine, excuse me. Let's try not to use house numbers in respect to the people that are living there currently or have lived in some of these places, because a lot of people are very uncomfortable with talking about this. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they had experiences as well, and they're just not as open to talking about it as we are. So, please kind of just give me your recollection of what happened. And give me as many stories as you'd like to tell.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go.
Okay. Well, it started probably, I would say 12 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, like 2008. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was up at somebody's house in Castle Circle and sitting on a couch, and I thought maybe a dog was hitting the back of the couch, and I realized that the dog was not behind the couch and something else was poking the back of the couch, and that's kind of where it all started for me personally. Mm-hmm. It was something else. Things just kind of progressed from there. Walk into that house and lights would flash. It was scratched. There was a recording with a voice that said some pretty horrible things, and it wasn't like the voices that you hear where people use those digital recorders and they sit there and listen for hours on end, and you get like a little whisper of something you might hear. This was definitely clear and as day, but it was a very guttural, deep voice that just said my name, come and get me, something about in the basement or something. Mm-hmm. And there were four or five of us there. We all heard it on the recording. We didn't hear it when that actually happened, but we heard it in the recording. And kind of at that point, I felt like I was just done. I just couldn't believe it.
And this was at your friend's house?
Yes.
that this happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was the same night where I walked in and these three lights just started flickering, and I thought maybe I had been walking too hard, on the floor. Because sometimes, like when you walk and wiring in a house and things like that can be kind of
Right.
weird. But then I had like three scratches on my legs too, and I thought, what in the heck? I thought, well, what did I do? And I kind of thought, well, that was strange. And maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something. I don't know, but it was all on the same night.
Were they three? Were they three scratches, like as if three fingers were together scratching you, type ordeal?
Oh yeah,
in
they
the
were
same
all
spot?
together, like in a line, three,
Yeah.
like an animal had clawed or something like that. It was up on the outside of my right leg, and it was just up above my knee. And it was kind of burning, and then that's when I looked down, and there were three scratches.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. I couldn't figure out what that was all about. Didn't walk into anything. There was nothing there. It was just rather strange. Could never say it was associated with anything, but when everything else like that went on that night, it was kind of hard to not consider that something was, I guess connected to that.
Now, had your daughter ever been to that house as well?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah,
I have.
we used to go there and get babysat after school every day. And her dogs, she had many dogs, and they would we'd go into the basement, and they were really comfortable with all of us. Really good dogs, and they'd never, get aggressive. But there was one time where we were in the basement, and that basement was creepy. It felt heavy down there, but her dogs were barking and growling at me, like there was something behind me, or like I don't know. They just got really aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do anything. But that house, it was really heavy in there, and there's a time where somebody had come to bless the house or something. I was young,
Right.
so I don't remember. And she kept looking behind her down the hallway, and we couldn't figure out why. And she said, "Are you going to get your baby? Your baby's crying." And there was no baby in the house. And then she said, I have to leave. She got really uncomfortable and she left.
And do you know,
You're talking about. I know what that you're talking about. They had a paranormal group from Omaha come,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a skeptic. And the skeptic was sitting there saying, "Are you going to do something about that baby crying? Are you going to get your baby?" And the homeowner said, "I don't have a baby." And the skeptic got up and looked in the room and said, "I got to go." Huh.
Yeah, I'll bet that's a common.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
And that
paranormal groups do tend to try to bring a skeptic, kind of like, I don't know if you know who Ed and Lorraine Warren are, but they were famous. Yeah, from the Conjuring movies and stuff like that. They would always bring a skeptic, and I think that's a really great way of investigating if you're going to do so, because why would you bring a bunch of people who are already believers into a place? Why not bring someone who, has no idea about any of that? Were you guys skeptics before all of this? Before any of this happened?
I was really young, so I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I guess not necessarily, but I was always of one of those people that thought, why would anybody stay in their house if that stuff was going on?
Right.
But then it started happening in our house, and I didn't leave.
Yeah.
The things started coming to our house, and we live on Northwest 54.
Mm-hmm.
And things started happening in our house where, our kids were somewhat little, and I was in their room. They were not cooperating and going to bed and whatnot. And so I'd lay on the floor, and they were like in bunk beds and whatnot. And I could have swore a a wrecking ball hit the side of that house, our house, and the whole room was shook, and there was nothing at all. They would hear scratches and banging. We'd have a book fly off the table, and it would hit a carpeted floor. But it had sounded like somebody took something and slammed it on a table, like a heavy, like rock or something hit a table. It sounded like a marble was running on a wood floor all the way across from one side of the house to the other.
Wow.
It's like scratching in the walls. And at first, you think, okay, well, there's probably squirrels or something because there's a lot of squirrels out here. But it would just get worse and worse and worse. We had one of the bedrooms upstairs, one of my daughters, it was her room, and she was in there, and something hit the wall so hard that it knocked the vanity mirror off of her vanity, which it was screwed on.
Right.
But the wall hit so hard, and then that vanity mirror broke off and fell down. She caught it, but it would have hit her, and that glass would have just shattered. We would hear people having conversations in other rooms that weren't even here, but it would be people that we knew voices. So, you'd think somebody's talking and having a conversation, and then you'd say, "What are you talking about?" And nobody would be there. They wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Did they ever say your names or anything? Like, did you ever?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's pretty common in hauntings for whatever reason. It's like they make some sort of weird connection, and they try to get your attention by even using people's voices from your own house, which is really odd. And I've had that happen in a couple of different places I've been there. I've been in a haunted house.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was upstairs, and I could have swore I heard one of my children talking in the bathroom, and I said, "Why are you on your phone in the bathroom?" And then I'm talking, and I said, "Why are you answering me?" And then that child came down the stairs and said, "Why are you talking? What are you talking about?" Nobody was in the bathroom.
Wow.
So, yeah, things like that. We also, I'm trying to remember how to put this. Things were really bad, and we were praying as a family. And we are not Catholic, but we did say the rosary. And we had we were praying the rosary, and the rosary beads broke just right there hanging. Somebody was holding one, and it was hanging, and the beads just broke right there as we were praying.
Man.
Which was rather kind of scary.
Well, yeah, it seems pretty...
Lifted up and broke.
Yeah, demonic almost,
Well, I do think it is. Definitely. You too?
Yes. Yeah, because there were times that, my older sister, would talk about it, and it seemed she was probably the one that experienced the most in the house.
Right.
Just because I feel like, I don't know, at that time it was maybe attached to her, and it would talk to her and tell her horrible things about us, her family, and that they were gonna kill us and all this stuff. And it would tell her that. And she actually saw something like a cat man, something like that, and she said that he had no lips. And she was older than me, and I was probably 10 at this time, so she would have been 12. So she, it wouldn't have been something really made up, but it told her its name, and we found it. It's actually it's a real demon.
Right.
So that, yeah, that was scary. And there were times where she didn't like to sleep alone. So I would lay in her bed with her, and we heard somebody coming up the stairs, like running up the stairs. And
Right.
when it got to the top, the noise stopped, but there was nobody there, nothing at all. And then you just heard it run into our room, and it flew past the wall, but you couldn't see anything. And it just felt like wind was kicking up on you, like something's passing by you really fast.
Hmm.
That's probably the scariest thing that I experienced myself. But
Well, yeah, I mean that is pretty terrifying. Most people don't experience much of anything throughout their. I mean, maybe they'll recollect a little bit, but that's quite a bit. And the cat-like figure that you're referring to, and is like a famous demon. In terms of when I've looked it up in like demonology. I don't really like to glorify them by saying their names or anything like that. I
yeah,
feel that. I feel that being my religious beliefs and everything else, I truly don't like to glorify the demonic in anything that they're doing. And I do want people to know that are listening that I'm not doing this to glorify the demonic at all, or even give the devil his due, so to speak. I'm doing this to make people more comfortable with the idea that this happens in a lot of places, and the paranormal is something to be afraid of, but it's also something to, I don't want to say not be afraid of, but it's just something that should be more of a normal thing to talk about. Instead, they look at us, like people like myself, as kooks, or they might try to tell me that, or any of us that are talking. The people might out there who are real skeptics might say, well, you guys are, you guys obviously have something mentally wrong with you to believe all of this. But I don't think that's true at all. And, and I'm by no means saying that about you, myself, or anyone in the field. I think it's actually quite the opposite. I think it takes a lot of courage for you guys to come forward and talk about this stuff, because there are a lot of people who aren't. The people are talking to me. Some of them, maybe, maybe they were skeptics before. Some of them maybe weren't. Some of them were outright. I never believed any of this until I experienced it, and then when I got out of there, I felt so relieved. But you guys did. So you guys stayed in the house. I mean, are any of you still currently living in the same
Yeah.
house? Oh, you
yeah,
are. Okay.
Mhm. I we just kind of, for over a couple of years, it was just a battle, and then it kind of just reached a point where we decided, this we looked at it as like, we're seeing this where a lot of people aren't.
Right.
And why are we? Maybe there's a reason we're able to see this, we're able to experience this. What is it we're being prepared for? Are we being prepared for something, or is this, why are we being allowed to see this? And what we do with this is going to bring us closer to
Right.
God. So we're told not to get obsessed with this, and what it's doing, it can't take us away from God, because that's what they're trying to do.
Right.
So if anything, it took us closer to God.
That's
It
great
brought
that
us
you
closer.
say that, because I feel that's true in many aspects, especially with this for me, and many people are going through it. I think that whatever is doing this, I think they're failing, because it makes me believe more and more in God, because I can pray to God when this stuff happens to me, and it will back off of me. And that's there is a higher power, and I, not to get preachy or anything, you guys can believe whatever you want to believe, but there's good, there's an evil, there's a light, and there's a dark, and the dark is very dark, and they want to block the light out. But what you guys are have experienced and are experiencing it's pretty mind-blowing. And it's not just you, though. I believe that it's not centralized to your house. I think that it's centralized to the entire area. Because,
Oh, absolutely.
and we can get into more of what you had told me about things you saw outside in different things. Because you had mentioned maybe doing like some paper stuff and different things,
Yeah.
like paper outs. Is that okay to say?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. There are, I would say, it's more concentrated from our experiences are more concentrated from where the new school is
yeah,
up to about where about Michael Circle is.
yeah, yeah,
My experience was, and then there is still stuff from there south, but I would say mostly between Michael Circle, maybe Night, and north.
right.
And from about 49th to, what would that be, like 57?
Yeah,
Something like
even
that.
58th, some people have.
58.
Yeah, so it's that's a pretty good span. I mean, even if we said from Northwest 48th Street to Northwest, what did I say, 58th Street, all the
Yeah.
way from there, from the school, the new school, all the way to the back edge. I've received reports, and a lot of reports. And what people are saying is there's old folklore, and I didn't hear this. Maybe you guys can, before we begin on some of this other stuff, is people have been calling it which was on my second episode, was the Airpark Devil, and they had heard about the Airpark Devil, and what the Airpark Devil was like, people would see a cat-like figure, kind of like what you guys had described, and none of us have talked about this really too much prior. So, it's interesting, and none of you guys who have talked to me have talked to each other, to my recollection, but everyone's kind of mentioning like a strange cat-like, or, it could even take on a man form at times figure
Oh my God.
that they see, and, it can shriek, it can make all these, guttural sounds, all sorts of, as if like a animal, like a large animal's growling, and people are talking about that. Me in my childhood, I grew up out there, in the 80s and 90s and all that, and I personally never witnessed any of that. I helped with paper outs and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's not there. I experienced a lot of things in other duplexes and other people's houses. So, but there was a lot of weird things that you would see at night. But as a kid, you're blasting around on your bike. You really don't, if I see something, I'm just blasting a little faster. That was the way I was. So please, by all means, I just want to give you that insight that other people were, and what other people were seeing and saying. Please continue on what you experienced.
Had never ever heard
I haven't either.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
No. But, like I said, the cat-like thing, that was, I would say number 3 would say that it was cat-like.
Mm-hmm.
I would always say it was more kind of simian and frog-like.
Okay.
But
I say that too. Yeah.
but it would crouch, and it could be like chimpanzee size to huge, like running alongside my car. And it never ever could I see a whole lot of detail, but it would just huge. Like that thing was. Do you remember when they had the mailbox at where the Michael Mart used to be?
Yeah.
And okay, so that thing was running alongside my car, and it would run like a gorilla would run,
Mm-hmm.
and it with the knuckles. So the arch of its body, the underside of it, was probably a good, I don't know how many feet, over the top of that uh, mailbox.
Okay.
So it was running alongside my car, getting faster than my car at 45 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it was blacker than the night. So, and then I'd seen it all squunched up, squatting along. What was the name of that street? I just lost it. It's not Wilkins. It's off of Superior. Ah, crud. I can't think of the name of it. I just lost the name. But you could go down 54th and you could turn onto Superior, and then there's that one street, and then there's Wilkins.
Right.
Oh shoot, I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, there was a stump, and there was an easement, and there was a stump there, and it would sit there. And I saw it, and you could it was so black and it was so dark over there, but you could see it. And it just stared. And I have never been so terrified in my entire life. I just froze.
Was that on the paper route?
Yes. And I did not, the only thing I could do was finally just start praying, and said some Hail Marys, and then said the Lord's Prayer. And until I was able to get that out and do it, I could not move. I have never been that terrified in my life. I've never known that kind of a fear, ever.
Right.
It was truly terrifying to have that just to feel that kind of a fear. Never had I ever experienced that. It just was such an overwhelming, just emptiness and dread and darkness and fear. It was awful. Just absolutely awful. And whatever it was, I was able to come up and start praying. That got me through it. I don't know. It was just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I did not ever want to go down there again. And it took a long time. I had to have somebody else go with me all the time because it was so terrifying. But, and there were so many things that we experienced on that, just something tugging on my cap, my hat, my winter hat, yank it off when I'm walking by on these streets, over on like 50th and 49th Street on those loops down there between Superior and West Ninth.
And didn't you say that one time you saw something, and it went like towards one of the duplexes and went like in it or whatever?
It
like
did, yes.
Just vanished inside.
Yes, and it's on. I think it's 50th Street. Before it's to the north of Superior on 50th.
Mm-hmm. I think it's right on that corner where they've redone it in different things, right?
Yes, it is. And it's one of the duplexes, and the window is, you can see they have one of the hanging lights.
Mm-hmm.
And
with the stairs that go all the way down.
Yeah, and you could see all these lights like kind of flashing in there. I thought, I know it wasn't Christmas time. I know it was cold, but it wasn't Christmas time. So I thought it was strange that they had all these like colored light things going on, because I thought, well, it's not Christmas, but whatever. And then I noticed that there was somebody standing there, and I thought, what are they doing standing just looking out their window at that time of night? And then I realized, well, they're not standing there, they're hovering. And then I thought, no, they're outside. But then it was like, no, they were leaning halfway in the window and outside. So they were, it was just the most bizarre thing, because they were inside and outside at the same time, leaning into the house. But there was like this band of white, just bright white, in between this black figure. So I don't know. I don't know. I can't even explain it to you other than that. It's just
Right.
but it wasn't a nice thing, I can tell you that, because it was just strange and I don't know.
I mean, that
Just
could
a
be
very black shadow thing with this white
you
bright
said it
light
almost looked
around.
like underwear, kind of, right?
It
Like
did.
you
It looked
thought
like
that it looked like someone standing in their underwear, hanging from the window, you know?
Exactly. And then I realized they're leaning in that house.
Right.
How are they leaning through that glass?
Yeah.
And my husband saw it too. We just looked at each other like, what is going on? And yeah, it just thinks there was one other thing that I did not tell you. It was 11 degrees below zero with 25-mile-an-hour winds one night. And we were up over in just to the south of Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Behind like where the Michael Mart and stuff is, and this would be 49th Street. Locusts flew up.
Locusts.
And it was, yes, locusts flew up as we were walking up and putting some papers on the porch. That was very strange.
Yeah.
And at first I thought those are leaves. And I said, oh my gosh, the leaves. And then I realized that's not a leaf. So yeah, my husband did remind me of that one, the locusts. I mean, there's just so many weird things.
What time did you guys, just to give people an idea, what time were you guys usually out for all this, the thing? You know, you have to be out pretty early for a paper out, right?
3 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
3 a.m. to 6 a.m.
So you're out in the middle of the witching hour, unfortunately. When they say the veil is at its lightest, and that's just really telling to me that it sounds to me when you tell me that you see something going in, that could be evidence of exactly what I think is happening. Is I think it's just going from one place to the next. I think that whatever's out there, be it terrible tragedies, from it being a former air base to it being the town of Huskerville. It had there was a hospital and there was a polio outbreak. It could be like any historic site where there's activity. I think that all of that is there, but why is there this supernatural aspect to it? I don't have any idea. I mean, I've tried to call different people and even ask friends who are Native Americans that I know to talk to different, see what tribes are out there and see if there's any sort of ritualistic stuff. I mean, all I've been told is that there's, there could have been some Masonic rituals, which I'm going to talk to one of my friends who's high up in the Masonic, rite or whatever.
There you go.
But I don't know if he's really, I really doubt that he's going to tell me anything about any of that, But it's worth a shot. We may never uncover why, but we all know, all of us, and not everybody has experienced something, but all of us who have experienced something in the Arnold Heights and Airpark area know that it's very real. And that's why I think that it's important for me. I'm not going to write a book to get rich or famous. I want to write a book because I'm a writer, and why not talk about a neighborhood that I'm so passionate about, that I love, but that, since I'm into the paranormal, there's also this history that nobody talks about. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been to other haunted locations in Lincoln, and there are many, but nobody talks about the neighborhood that we all grew up in, And that's wild to me. All people try to say is that Airpark is full of, low-income people and nothing but crime and stuff happens out there, but that's a bunch of garbage. It really is. I mean, I grew up in a regular family like everyone else, and we're just normal people living in a nice area. It's like, it's not anymore, but it used to be like living in a small town.
Well, it still kind of is. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's still kind of far away. I mean, You really can't. I mean, it still is.
Yeah.
We've lived out here for 20 years, and it's still. I don't know. It's you still have to drive pretty far to do stuff. I mean, now it is closer to get the Super Saver, but
Now, do you live in a
you know,
duplex or one of those that are single? You
we
know.
live in a duplex.
Okay, so have you ever talked to your neighbors in the past about any of this? Like, hey, do you have any idea?
No.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
it's not really something you talk about with your neighbors.
Uh-uh. We've had. Let me think.
There's probably like 7, 8 neighbors
Yeah, we have
that
had
have been in and out.
Yeah.
Eh, there's maybe one I would have talked to about it, but I don't know.
Like I can recall with my own experience, like in the duplex that I lived on Northwest 50th, where I would ask my neighbors, like, "Do you guys ever have anything weird?" And I would, and they'd look at me like I was nuts a little bit, but they'd say, there sometimes we do see things on occasion, things down the hallway, and hear stuff moving around, and we never know what it is. And I mean, I don't think people understand. Like, yes, they're duplexes, and yes, they are. You can kind of hear what's going, but you can also. I mean, we're human beings. We have we're smart. We have brains. We can discern what's happening, what you're hearing next door, and what's happening in your own home. You know what I mean? So I think that
Absolutely.
yeah. So anyone who is any skeptic out there, and there are many, might come to the neighborhood and go. Well, it's something as simple as, they just heard their neighbor, or well, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think my neighbor is running around my hallways and pounding on my walls, and they're certainly not the shadows I see at the end of the bed or anything like that. So
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, even when I have extended family come over, and they'll even say some things like, something's just not right, they're not comfortable, and these are people that aren't even, they're not exactly people of faith, they're just like, no, I just don't feel really right, that kind of a thing. That was your dad's oldest brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they had just had a child, and I don't know. I hadn't just had him. He was like 4 or 5 months old, and he just kept staring at this one place and just crying and crying and crying.
The person was crying.
Couldn't console him. The baby
The
was
baby.
crying. Yeah, he was several months old, and the dad, my husband's brother, just said, he goes, there's something here. I swear. He goes, I don't think you guys are crazy at all. You can just feel it.
Yeah.
And that was him. And I mean, he doesn't have a deep faith or anything like that.
Yeah, he doesn't really believe in anything.
It doesn't, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have like a faith in a creator or things like that, and
Right.
or a deity. He's just, I don't know, maybe he's agnostic, I would say. He thinks there's something, but he just, he's like, I don't know, there's something here.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I do.
My friends would come over and they, would see stuff. And one of my friends in particular thought I threw something at her. That clock that's on the wall right next to you, that flew across the room and hit the wall on the other side, and she thought that I threw it at her. We were sitting there watching a show, and then there were times that I would pass that bathroom downstairs, and there used to be little tins there, and that would fly across the wall and hit the other side of the wall. It would just, there was no explanation for it. Things would fall off of shelves. It would just, I don't know. Things would open and close, and you'd hear the 3 knocks.
Yeah.
Just 3.
Just 3.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
than on the scratching and stuff. And it would usually that room that I had, my bedroom, that one,
The
I
middle
would
one.
probably yeah, that's the worst one.
Well, that's where the
Maybe
vanity
so.
mirror got knocked off, and almost that glass would have just.
And you said that was an anchored mirror, and
Yeah.
so this
Yeah.
anchored mirror gets knocked off the wall somehow. I mean, that's pretty
Well, it's
wild.
knocked off. Well, it was actually anchored
It was
to the vanity itself.
Oh, okay. Wow.
He hit the
Something
wall
hit the
so
wall.
hard, and because it was pushed up against the wall, and something hit the wall so hard that the mirror anchored to the vanity. It shook it and it broke it,
Mm-hmm.
and she caught it on the edges, but
Jeez.
she was sitting there.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
that room, I don't know if like sleep paralysis has anything to do with anything, but I would have sleep paralysis multiple times a night sleeping in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened my eyes one time and there were just black figures all around my bed just staring at me. So every single time I'd have sleep paralysis after that, I'd just keep my eyes closed and wait and wait and wait until I
Yeah.
could finally move again. But I don't know if that had to do with anything, but you couldn't move or talk or anything. And it
I
was,
believe it does because, like I can only say from my experience, but, I experienced the most sleep paralysis of my life in one of the duplexes that I lived in out there. And I would have night terrors, almost every night. I would have, horrible dreams of like a black horse with red eyes and, all sorts of different odd stuff. But I'd have this sleep paralysis where I'd wake up and I was cognitive of what's going on, and I could see things in the room, but I would scream out, but nothing was coming out, and I couldn't
Yeah.
move. And I would always tell myself I must be sleeping, so I would start thinking, like the Lord's Prayer, or, Lord, help me, take me away from this, and it would usually subside. Did you ever try that? Did that usually make it stop or go away?
yeah, I know that my dad had it before, had sleep paralysis when he was asleep in this chair downstairs, and he said that he was trying to say the Lord's Prayer and it wouldn't let it, like he couldn't speak it,
Yeah,
couldn't really think it, and it was like something was holding him
yeah,
that he couldn't do it. So I never tried that because when I was living there, I didn't think that it had anything to do with it, and I would just kind of try to wiggle my toes until I could get full movement back. But after I moved out, it doesn't happen to me anymore. It
Yeah.
only happened to me in that house, and it would happen multiple times a night.
So I guess my next question for you is, have you had any more experiences since you left there at all, or did it all go away as soon as you got out?
No, I don't think I've had anything happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the places that I've lived, no,
Okay.
I don't have anything happen
Okay.
where I'm at now. I live in Omaha now, so there's
Yeah.
nothing here.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, that's a good point to make. I mean, it's not, from my experience, I feel like every house we moved from that place, we lived there for 5 years. I lived there as a child too, I lived with my current family, my wife and my kids for 5 years, and we've had things happen at every house that we moved into. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. And it's been since then. It wasn't, it wasn't prior. I've had stuff prior to that. Who knows if my family's always had something. I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't want to dramatize it like the TV shows do and all that, and tell everybody that I have a demon following me and I have all this. I don't know if that's true or even believe that. But I will say that since I moved, I've always had things happen ever since then. I mean, even in the house I'm currently in the room I'm sitting in, I have all sorts of things happening here, from knocking to, seeing things go, everybody sees my dogs go crazy, at nothing. It's kind of all the same stuff that we're talking about, just not quite as intense as it was out there. So,
Actually, there was this one house that I was living in, the first place that I moved into after I moved out of that house in Airpark. It wasn't in Airpark at all, but it was in Lincoln. It wasn't kind of really the same experiences or anything, but that house was weird too. I just remember the room that I was in had the bathroom on the other side of the wall, and someone had gotten up and went to the bathroom sometime at night. Everyone was sleeping, and they thought that I was knocking on the wall to have them come in or something. So when they opened the door, I was just asleep.
yeah.
And they experienced that there, but that house was creepy too. It was more downtown Lincoln,
Right.
though. But that was really the only thing, but I don't think anything followed me.
Yeah. And now my last question to you would be, when you do visit your mom at the current duplex that they live in, that they always did, do you ever experience anything now? Like, you feel uncomfortable when you go there now?
No, it's not as because when I was in elementary, middle, and high school, more of middle and high school, we kind of just learned to um, ignore it and not let it feed off of us and not feed off of it. When you're when you walk in and you feel drained and everything, it's feeding off of you. And if you get angry, it's feeding off of you. So we just tried to ignore it. So nothing really happens anymore. I mean, there might be like a knock or a scratch, but it's not anything that's happening every single day anymore.
And I think that's the best medicine for it. I really do. I think you guys did the right thing. That's the approach we use also, is if there's something happening, don't glorify whatever. They're trying to get your attention. They're trying to do something. But if you just make it, it's just regular life, whatever. I'm not going anywhere, so you might, you can do your darndest if you'd like, but you're wasting your time type attitude. I think that really helps. So that's really good insight, and I'm glad that that's the approach you guys used.
Yeah.
But I don't want to keep you guys too long. I mean, this has been a great interview, and I've really enjoyed talking to you guys about all of this. And once again, I'm so glad that you guys have the courage to come forward and talk to me about it, and give me permission to use this, because this is, I'm just some schlub like everybody else blabbing about whatever, but it's science. I mean, if anything, look at it like this. This is all kind of scientific way of talking and looking at something that people don't really put too much credence into, but they should. So if you guys have anything else for now in closing that you guys would like to talk about, the forum's yours.
Just really, other than that, if anybody's listening that's experiencing this and they're having a lot of fear and doubts, but just remember that that's what its goal is. And, to just try to, I guess, if we found it with, God and the Lord Jesus, and you just look to them. It's trying to pull you away from that and feed off of it. And you need to look towards the light, as you would say, and put your faith and trust there.
Absolutely.
And that is where it's to be, and that's what's going to get you through, because now those things we just are like, oh, all right, that's what it is, whatever.
Yeah.
it can't really do anything to you, because other than just do that fear, or put those things of mistrust and stuff and divide you. I mean, and it was really hard. It did a lot of dividing and putting mistrust and things like that within your family, and in relationships outside of your family too, causing a lot of trouble. So just try to keep that into perspective, and just ignore it. Just as best you can. I mean, and hopefully you'll get to that point. It's not because you listen to certain music or read certain books or watch something on TV. That has nothing to do with it. I mean, yes, behaviors and things like that do play into things, but getting rid of movies or music or things like that aren't going to get rid of it.
Right.
Just putting your faith in God and taking care of your family is what does.
Absolutely.
So,
well, that's a wonderful message, and thank you for sharing, that wisdom with people. I mean, that's a strong statement, and I really do want to thank you guys once again for coming on the show. I think that this one's probably gonna come out as soon as I can get my butt together and edit and everything else. So you can look for this as part 3 of the Curse of Arnold Heights series. I'm sure I'll come up with some goofy title, but but for now, yeah, I mean, unless you guys have a title you want to go with.
I don't know. I will tell you that my number 3 kid, she's writing something. And I can go ahead and send it to you.
Yeah.
So she's doing that. She's the one that really had, I would say,
it
is
was
the most
attached to her.
Yeah, I mean, she really struggled.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she's the one that's gonna have the most, I would say. So once she gets that written, I can send it to you.
Yeah.
And if you have, if there's anything else you have questions about, feel free to ask. I do know that my husband said that he went on to Google Earth, and you can turn back I don't know how he does it, but you can go to Google Earth and look at the landscape of the stuff, and you can go back in dates and see that between, what is it, Northwest 48th, and then I don't know what that street is. That's not like 30. I don't know. Is it 30? Oh gosh, 48. Maybe it's like, I don't know, that street that goes around the airport eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is. You can go there and you can look at the landscaping, and then you can kind of, if you go back a little bit, it'll show you stuff in the trees, and you can see
the Osiris symbol is in there.
Yeah.
I can't remember I don't know if that's a demonic symbol or not, but I remember
it's actually, it has to do with the Masons, and it has to do with Illuminati stuff that all the Masons and all those things do. The Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus.
Wow, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
it's right on 48.
Okay.
Yeah,
line that's there.
that tree line there was part of the air base, and the guy that designed, or the guy that was whatever part of that, he was big in the Masons, and so I don't know if he found it, and I don't know how to do it, but he knows how to do it, and I don't know how to do it.
Well, these are great questions that I'll have to ask my buddy who's part of the Masons, and I think he's like a higher up in the local Masonic rite and all that.
Well,
so.
and that's not like a big secret thing. That's just that would be something that the Masons was like, oh yeah, that's how they did it. It would be symbolic of this. It's not anything like a big secret thing.
No, it's not like it's not like they were Satanists putting a pentagram, all the streets are in a big pointed stars in the pentagram or anything. That'd be, well, not cool, but that'd be kind of cool in the sense of, man, these guys really plotted it out. But
Yeah, we have tunnels underneath here that lead
Yeah.
straight to this is where we do our sacrifices. No, it's not like that.
well, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm not going to take up any more time on your weekend, and I guess we're just going to conclude this interview now, and I will say, this might be the last time I talk to you for now, but it won't be the last time forever. So hopefully we could talk more. Okay.
No problem. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Thanks.